Welcome to the Grant Writing Simplified podcast. This is the place to learn how to make a big impact in your community through grant writing and nonprofit consulting. The world needs you to step forward as a grant writer and use your skills to lead with confidence. I'm Teresa Huff, former special ed teacher turned grant writer and nonprofit strategist. In my 20 years of freelancing, I've helped nonprofits triple their funding and exponentially increase their reach. Now I'm stepping up to mentor freelancers and nonprofit leaders like you who are ready to take your skills to the next level. It's time to get intentional about your vision so you can create lasting change in your community. Learn the skills and strategies you need to become the grant writer the world needs. Let's do this. Hey friends, welcome to episode 47. I can't believe we are already here halfway through the year. We are wrapping up the second quarter and about to head into July. That's just crazy. It seemed like 2020 would never end, and now here 2021 has just flown so far. I don't know about you, but it has gone fast. I've been reviewing and looking back through several things the last few days, just kind of in reflection, looking at how I'm progressing on some of my goals for this year and also what I want to do ahead. And last week we wrapped up our Grant Writer Fast Focus Power Series, the 4-day series, where we talked about how we can help you develop the confidence and clarity to start your grant writing career. We talked through some mindset shifts you need to make and then some practical strategies to go step by step through that to map out a plan for your next phase of your career of what you want that to look like. If you missed that, make sure you go back and listen to those. It's episodes 43 through 46, and you can download the free workbook for that at teresahuff.com/fastfocus. So as I've been reflecting, I'm also celebrating some wins. Last week, I reached 10,000 downloads on the podcast. That is just crazy. I was hoping that I might reach 10,000 by the time I had been doing this a whole year. I didn't know what to even expect or what kind of goal to set. That was just kind of like my, I hope that works kind of goal. And so here we are, not even 9 months in, and we've hit 10,000 downloads. So thank you all for that. Thank you for your support. I love hearing from you guys and hearing how this is helping you and the work you're doing in your communities. I love hearing about your nonprofits. So thank you for that encouragement. Last week, you may remember I ended the Fast Focus series with a quote from Sir Henry John Newbold, where he said, "Let us build for the years we shall not see." Let us build for the years we shall not see. And that is really what we're doing here, right? With this nonprofit work. We don't know what kind of impact this is truly going to have long term. We can't tell what effects this will have down the road. We're just doing what's in front of us right now. We're doing the next right thing. But my friend, I want you to know that what you're doing is making a difference. And if you're starting to really wonder or feeling burnout or just wondering, should I even bother? Go back to your why. I talked through this in part 1 of the Fast Focus series in episode 43. Really dig deep and go back to your why. In part of my reflection process, I was looking back through some of my old notes, and I keep a handwritten notebook. I have a lot of Google Docs, but I really just like good old pen and paper notebooks too, to brainstorm and to keep track of things, and I just like note-taking. And really, our brains remember things better if we handwrite our notes. So I was looking back through some of my old notebooks the last few days and just reflecting on how far I've come and how the journey has been. And I just want to encourage you to stick with it. Even if you're confused right now, even if you're not sure, maybe your confidence is a little shaken, or if you just are not quite sure of your next steps, listen to this. Action brings clarity. So keep working, keep doing the next right thing. Don't just sit there with your hands tied wondering, well, I really don't know how this is going to work out, so I guess I won't do anything. Don't do that, please. Take action, and then the next steps will become more and more clear. It's so much easier to shift directions than it is to start all over again and get that momentum going. So first, go back to your why. And in that process, I also want to talk about our role as grant writers. Sometimes, yes, we actually write the grant, but really, I've said this before on the podcast, grant writing is kind of the wrong name because we do so many other things too. We have so many hats, so many responsibilities, and depending on the role you're in, you may also be a development director, you may be in all kinds of other roles, especially if your nonprofit doesn't have a lot of staff. We typically get plenty of things thrown our way. So one thing that we have to do a lot is to ask the hard questions. And sometimes we have to ask hard questions with clients, or sometimes it's with ourselves, or with funders, or even with team members that we work with. And that's a part of our role. We almost have to play devil's advocate sometimes. We might find ourselves needing to ask questions ahead of time and think through the possible problems and look for the holes in the grant application or in the program proposal that someone is wanting to do. We have to look for the holes first, because if we don't, you can be sure the grant funder will find them and will ask about them when we submit the application. So it's much better if we play devil's advocate up front and think through those possible things so we can address them in the grant application. You may be wondering, what am I even talking about? But there may be questions like someone suggests a possible program and we need to say, how will we pay for that? Or what if no one signs up? Have you done a feasibility study or a participant survey to see if our clients would even use this service? Would they even want this if we offered it? Or maybe you ask something like, if we get that grant award, how much will we need to pay out of pocket to make sure the program is a success? How much of our team's time will this require? And is it worth it? Does it fit well with what we're already doing, or would this be too much of a stretch outside of our focus and our mission? Those are just some examples that sometimes we need to ask and we need to really think through. And not in a way to be difficult, not to be argumentative or combative, but to be strategic and proactive. And we can do this with grace in a way that shows that we care about the program's success and that we want to help build the best presentation possible. But we do need to look at those hard questions. Sometimes people are so close to the situation, to the project or the program or the cause that they can't step back and look for those possible problems that we need to address up front. And we need to think those through before we submit the grant application. Grant writing tends to be pretty seasonal. A lot of times applications are due towards the beginning of the year. There's kind of a busy spring season. And then sometimes again in the fall. You might have a couple hit in the summer here and there, just kind of some random ones, but typically there are two main seasons with it when most of the applications tend to be due. So the more prep work you can do ahead of time, the better, because then your team won't be scrambling quite so much to pull together the information, the documents, the application. Back in episode 22, I talked about 6 types of information your nonprofit should have on hand. And if this is slower season for you right now, you can finally take a breather and you're between grants. Go through this, make sure all this information is up to date and organized, and the key people on your team know where it is. That way, when the grant applications do come up, you can focus more on the application itself, instead of scrambling trying to find all this paperwork and odds and ends that really you could have had updated a long time ago. Sometimes if we know application questions, we can start a little bit ahead of time, but sometimes we don't have those questions until the application opens, and then we've got to work really hard to make sure we get it done by the deadline. So the more you can do in advance, the more proactive, the better. If this is kind of your slower season, then it might be a great time for you to jump on the fast track to grant writer, and this will help you prepare for the next busy grant season. We can focus on your career plan so that you can have the confidence and the competence to serve nonprofits well. And by the way, join us over in the brand new LinkedIn community, Grant Writing Simplified. We can support each other over there, ask your questions. I share resources there. And if you know of someone who could benefit from all this information or from joining us over in the LinkedIn community, would you share this with a friend? Help me spread the word about this. I've got some great episodes planned for July that I know you're going to love. I've got a grant writer strategy call, a really cool guest from Australia with a fun project he is working on. You'll want to hear about that. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn and how to really jazz up your profile. and all kinds of other good stuff. So make sure you come back, invite your friends so that they can learn from this too, and we can all support each other. All right, my friends, thanks for joining me today. Now go change your world.